Hey friends, it is Ask a Flower Farmer Wednesday, and it's your friend Lisa Mason Ziegler. So glad to be here with you guys today. So here's how this works. I do my best to answer your questions, whether it's about, let's see, gardening or cut flower farming, business, and even farm dogs. So I will do my best. If you just put your questions down in that little bubble at the bottom of the screen. That way I don't have to scroll through all the names and perhaps miss your question, right? So while you guys are loading that up, I have a few little announcements. Let's just start at the top of what would be my personal list, right? Stand by. Cammie? So y'all know that I am a huge fan of local businesses. And I've been talking about all the different small businesses that are in my family. And one of them is actually, you have to be local to take advantage of this, guys. So if you're in, southeastern or in Hampton Roads of Virginia, I have a niece. Did somebody call Cammie, please? There she is. So this is my niece, Cammie. And Cammie is helping us out here in the warehouse while she was having a little slow period, the natural period of January, right? Because guess what, y'all? She has a baking business, and it is called
Sugar Bee Treats.
Sugar Bee Treats. You can follow her on Instagram or Facebook, whatever your choice is. But she does local. She doesn't ship. So if you live here in Newport News or Hampton, she has pre-packaged. She has all kinds of goodies. If you go to her Instagram feed, you can actually see some of those, right, Cammie?
Yep. Instagram is Cake Lady Cake Lady Sugar Bee, and then on Facebook is Sugar Bee Treats by Cammie.
And so why don't you go into the other room and go onto this feed, join me, and type in your name so people can follow you.
Okay, awesome.
So anyway, great Valentine's Day gift, y'all. So if you want local and you don't want to bake or you just want delicious food, check out Cammie on Instagram. Thank you. So Cammie is kind of helping us package stuff and helping us out here at the warehouse. So I wanted to give her a big shout out. So y'all keep loading in the questions. And I have one more thing that I want to show you. I can't wait to eat that cookie, y'all. So this is our choice Valentine gift. Customer favorite from last year was my book, Vegetables Love Flowers. As we all know, this is really about a 3-season cutting garden, how I farm and garden, the whole method from setting up, maintaining it, cutting, and how we do follow natural processes. And you can get the set along with this 3x10 cutting garden for your sweetie will be thanking you all season long. So this is another really great one. And then this isn't in the set, but we also have the pink seed collection. That's all about breast cancer awareness. But how perfect is that for Valentine's Day, right? And y'all can find all of that over at thegardenersworkshop.com. Would love for you to check that out. And so I see we've got some questions now. And so if you're just joining along with us, if you post your questions down in the bubble, we'll go till 12 o'clock trying to answer all of those. And if you want to sign up for my farm news, which comes out every week, and y'all, it's really pretty dadgum amazing. The way that the girls have created it now is it's just multiple headlines of different areas that you can check out, whether it's how to learn how to do something, watch a video, highlighted product. Our employees now, the TGW crew are now being featured one at a time. It's a lot of fun, but you can learn, sign up for that on thegardenersworkshop.com. All right. Sunflower Sky Farm asked, the year you planted your snaps close and did not pinch them, what did you not like about it? Stems too big. We have been pinching, but I wonder if one strong stem would be better and if I am delaying the blooms by pinching. So you're talking about several years ago, probably about 3 or 4 years, or maybe 3 years ago, instead of planting 4 rows like we normally do with snapdragons, we planted, I think it was 6 or I don't think it was 8. I think it was 6. And we in fact did get a nice first central stem. I mean, that's the point of doing that, right? But to be honest, it really was not that much bigger than the stems that we got when we did 4 rows in a bed. And when we do 4 rows, we continue to get good quality stems. They were too kind of close together for some really great branching going on. So for us, it really, really wasn't worth it. So that's the only reason. And the other thing is, whenever anything interferes, well, here's the real story. Anytime anything interferes with our spacing of we use the flower support netting, that we roll out on the bed. We use it because it's a 6-inch block for spacing, and then we, of course, roll it up immediately after we're done. Anytime we vary from that, it has to be a really good reason, because using that flower support netting as a spacer is a quick and easy way to plant. And I mean, you can put somebody out there planting that really doesn't even have any experience, right? So that wasn't worth it for us. Kathy asks, hi Lisa, is a caterpillar hoop like a tiny hoop house? In 5B, what freeze cloth would you recommend? So a caterpillar hoop, and I'm not real experienced in either one of these because I don't have either one of them, but I can tell you what I've gathered. A caterpillar hoop is a low tunnel, which means it's, a temporary situation, and it has plastic on it. And then they have a roping system that they secure the plastic down. And the reason they call it a caterpillar is because the ropes really, when you stand back and look at it from the side, it looks like a long caterpillar, right? So a caterpillar in my world, in my thinking, is a low tunnel, very temporary. A hoop house is more of a permanent structure. And so, haven't used either one of those. First off, I can't have hoop houses, but caterpillars with plastic just require a lot more intervention from the farmer every day. When you're just using lightweight row cover like what I use, that is purely just kind of like a windbreaker. It's not a winter coat. Like what a hoop house or a greenhouse can be, if you want to think about it that way. When you put plastic on top of hoops, that means there's no moisture penetrating that, and you have to really monitor the temperatures underneath there. So it's kind of a whole different ballpark. So I can't really advise you on that because I haven't done it, but that's why I haven't done it. I have just figured out how to grow stuff with the lightweight jacket to my benefit, instead of having to have a winter coat, which is just more involved, right? And so the only weight row cover that we use on the farm is the Ag 19. That's also what we sell. And because it has more uses, then if we feel like we need more protection, we double it. And lastly, Kathy, to answer your question, it really changes how much cloth you need based on what you're growing and what time of year it is. If you are growing cool flowers, fall planting cool flowers that are winter hardy in your zone, they don't require frost cloth. The lightweight row cover is just kind of an added benefit to help protect the vegetation. So that's the long answer. Sorry, y'all. Very few questions really have super simple answers. Do you put ranunculus under that? That is a super easy question for me to answer because I don't grow ranunculus. Sorry, I cannot comment for that at all. Again, that's a really deep answer to why I don't. Ranunculus are definitely in demand. They are just, my conditions are more difficult to grow them in, and I can grow a lot of other things that are far more profitable in the long run when you weigh labor to what the end result is. So I know you've mentioned before, but what is the product you use to keep gnats out of your seed starts again? So that would be Natural, and I'm sure Rhonda's running to get one right now to bring it to me so I can show it to you. And we sell it in 1 ounce packages, a 2-pack of this, or a 4 ounce pack. And then we also have the yellow sticky traps. So there is the name. And yeah, so you definitely have to use that in your watering can once a week to prevent gnats from developing in your soil, which is where they actually live. All right, y'all, wait a minute. Almost hit the wrong button. Any flowers you do not net? Seaside Flower Farm is asking. So, yeah, there is. So for cool flowers, we don't net for sure Iceland poppies, nigella, orlea. Just thinking. I'm just going down the road because I plant them together with that intention in mind. I do definitely net the rest of them, like bachelor buttons, all of them. If I don't, they just go down, you know. I mean, there's going to come that day when a torrential rain comes. So the flowers that I don't net warm season stuff, we don't net sunflowers. It's not because they don't need it. It's because we just planted too many to be able to do it. We plant them every week. And so we were just willing to actually risk that loss, right? So I'm just thinking in the summer, you don't net eucalyptus. Oh, speaking of eucalyptus, guess what? Y'all are in for like the headliner of the day in the farming world. We just today, unexpectedly, got eucalyptus silver dollar seed in. Believe it or not, right behind me on the other side of that wall, they are literally being packaged. They're on our website, thegardenersworkshop.com. So if you want some eucalyptus seeds, this is the silver dollar, which is that gorgeous green. It's a little bit larger than silver drop. And so check that out. And nobody else knows about it right now. So, I mean, literally, there was a happy dance going on in this warehouse this morning when we unexpectedly received it in the mail. So be sure you get yours. Because the other thing about eucalyptus is that it's a super slow grower. So you need to, like, get it going ASAP to be able to get a good harvest off of it. It's a really slow grower. So I'm just trying to think pretty much anything else I don't net Purple Majesty millet or Limelight millet. Pretty much everything else. Coxcomb for sure gets netted. We net basil. We net all of it. All right. Do you have any tips or tricks to germinate bells of Ireland? Well, sure. So the way that the instructions that we give you on the seed packet is that it's not required, and I'll say this again, it's not required, but there is a benefit to storing your cool season hardy annuals in the freezer, because then when you take them out to get them started, just think about it. It's a natural process. They're coming out of freezing cold, and now you're going to give them a little bit of, change of temperature, and they'll sprout. So we store ours in the freezer. We take them out of the freezer, and we soak them for at least several hours. Bells of Ireland has a really hard outer shell. And so I have been known to soak them for days just because I put them into soak, and then we couldn't get to them, and they do great. So we direct sow them, and here in southeastern Virginia, we direct sow them in the fall. I just posted an image on my Instagram feed. It wasn't from this year, it was from last year's, that you can see how beautifully they do when they're soaked, and you plant them when they're having their desired temperatures, that they are really, really great germinators. I have never attempted to germinate bells indoors just because person I learned from said it's just best to direct sow them, and in fact that has worked beautifully for us. So soaking them is really the ticket. I have heard that using leaves as mulch for annuals causes the soil to be fungally dominant. Have you seen any bad effects? So I don't really understand. Well, I do understand what your question is. I can't speak directly to that, but I will tell you that we have used leaves in our garden now. We don't mulch the top of our beds with leaves because that usually has the Bio 360 biodegradable film that works like and looks like plastic. our pathways have had tons of leaves added in. So I can't really speak to your exact question, but I will say that we have incorporated literally thousands of bags of leaves a year for years now, decades, a couple of decades. And I haven't had any apparent problems that I'm aware of. But that would be something for someone that perhaps can answer that more directly for you. The dirt therapist asked, what height do you put your support netting on? Same height for all flowers. So that's a really great question. There's a whole line of people at the front door. So we have a line of local pickups here. So the general rule is to actually net your plants. The best spot for the netting is at halfway to the mature height. So that means if it's a 48-inch tall plant, then it gets put at about 24 inches. In general, that's pretty true for us, but things like basil, which only gets about 30 inches, it's a little bit lower. You find if you really learn the correct height for how a plant grows in your garden at that halfway mark, it makes harvesting through the netting so much more efficient, as well as if the netting is actually installed properly, because I see so much loose netting, y'all, and not only is that dangerous to wildlife, if they get in there and it's loose and they can get tangled, if it is installed properly, it is really hard for a big bird to get tangled in it. And so not tight netting at the right height for that crop, which would be at the halfway mark, is really the proper way to do that. And it makes actually harvesting so much easier. Sandhill blooms. Our Celosia was short in stature last summer. Any thoughts on what might cause this? Oh, sure. There is just a big old long list of any growing condition for any plant, really, but Celosias in particular. First off, they resist being pot bound. So we find that we have such an amazing luck with Celosia because we soil block. That's one of the big benefits of soil blocking, is they never really get root bound. And then just your growing conditions and when did you plant them? What day length was it? There's just a lot of other conditions. So for us, as a general rule, we grow them under the transplants under grow lights. And that means that we can get the 16 hours of daylight a day instead of just natural light, which, like in a greenhouse, sometimes that can affect that. And to be sure not to plant them too early. They need warm soil and warm air, and to not let them get pot bound, because they'll just sit there and not really do anything. So often I use them as the example of when people will buy, because they make Celosias that are short, that come in 6-packs, that you can plant in your landscape. And when you buy them, bring them home from the store, you have these little plants that have this cute, how they make them bloom early, with this cute little bloom on them. Well, people plant them and they just literally sit there just like that all summer. They never grow. And that's why they're just very resistant to being pot bound. So we find Celosia very easy to grow when you just meet their needs. Hi, Lisa. I see a lot of people starting sweet peas. I'm in zone 6B. Is it time for me to start them as well? Worried they might get too tall in the deep cell containers I have. So that's a great question. So Smitty, if you haven't read my book, Cool Flowers, I would advise you to check that out. It talks about how to handle cool season hardy annuals, which sweet peas are one of those. And sweet peas in your zone 6 are not necessarily, they can't be fall planted. They can with a lot of protection, but typically people plant them in our what are called very early spring. What is very early spring? It's actually 6 to 8 weeks before your last spring frost. So your zone only tells you which period of the year to plant sweet peas. Your frost date tells you exactly when to plant them. So let's just guess and say your last frost date, expected historical frost date is probably mid-May, right? So that means you would count back 8 weeks. Mid-March would be when you would target plant those out in your garden. We only start sweet peas a couple of weeks before we plant them. You do not want sweet peas sitting inside in a container of any kind, soil block or otherwise, more than a couple, 3 weeks. We start them in the 2-inch block and start them 2 weeks before, and that gives us about a 5-inch tall vine. We've even planted them once they sprout inside. See, planting them at this time of the year, if you tried to direct sow them, there's just not enough warmth yet. There is not enough warmth yet for them to sprout out in the garden. So we would sprout them in a 2-inch block, because indoors we can give them that heat they needed. And literally you can actually, once they pop, you could actually plant them outside. Harden them off a little bit. I'd give them a couple of days sitting in a protected area to get used and acclimated to the cool weather. But we typically plant vines that are 5 to 6 inches tall, and that's when the proper time for you to plant is 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost date for zone 6 is the proper time. Hunt country flowers. Have you grown carnations as cool flowers? What was your experience? Do you treat them as other dianthus? So yes, and you'll actually find the one that we grow on our website. I'm sure I'm killing this name. Is it Shabada? Shabad? How do you say it, Lane? Chabot. I was close. Why? Y'all see how why we have to have so much help around here. Everybody's got their no, right? So, yes, we treat them as like all the other Sweet Williams. And in fact, I have them in my garden growing now. They were fall planted, and they just went through an 11-degree night, uncovered, because we had just had snow and my covers were all frozen, and the plants still look pretty dadgum awesome. So I'm not claiming that what zone they're winter hardy to, but I'm just telling you that they are doing very, very well here in zone 7B/8A, actually even uncovered. So it's been years. I grew these, golly day, probably 8 or 9 years ago, and just, they didn't contribute enough when we were in high production for me to grow them. But of course, now we're back to revisiting a lot of stuff. So I would recommend everybody try them, because we're always, we're always looking for that zinnia shape flower to have earlier in the year, right, with the carnation. And the mix that we have is a great mix of awesome spring colors. So anyway, so yes. And I would say if you didn't plant them in the fall, those are ones that I would jump on immediately starting and getting them out in the garden and see how they do. Can you early spring plant carnations? It really, first off, I would say I think it's worth the gamble for what the shape of the flower that they're going to contribute. So I would definitely try it. We fall planted them, but I don't know where you are. But if you have time to get them up and get them started, and they were really super strong germinators too, by the way, sprouters, and get them in the garden, why not try, right? You just never know until you try it. So Flourishing Farm is asking, do you soil block Iceland poppies? No, we do not. They're just like bells of Ireland. The person that I learned from years ago said they do great direct seeding, and bells and Iceland poppies are one of the cool flowers that I know a lot of people struggle with trying to get them started inside. That's because it's that varying air temperature as well as cooler conditions is what they really germinate best at, and that's what we've done. So we direct sow them in the fall, straight in the garden with a really great, actually I just found the best picture of seedlings that I am having them add to the product page of Iceland Poppies. It's not there yet, but when you finally master direct seeding, then you will be the master of doing it. And we have done that in Iceland Poppies, and they do really, really well. Lynn Berry, are you considering any new perennial flowers for your garden? So Lynn, if you for anybody that hasn't followed along with us, I grow almost no perennials other than peonies. And actually, tuberose are perennials for us. We don't have to lift them every year. Because I'm a small space farmer, even when high production, the most I've ever had in production is 1.5 acres when we were producing 10 to 15,000 stems of flowers a week in season. And to get those kind of numbers out of a small space, you basically grow annuals. That's kind of what my niche has been all these years. And so the biggest bang per square foot of real estate is definitely annuals, although peonies kind of come close to providing that, because you see perennials take up real estate year round. They need care year round. And that's the second reason we really move away from perennials. It's not that there aren't a bunch of wonderful perennials to grow. It's that we fight Bermuda grass, which is a perennial warm season grass that is very aggressive, and we literally cannot keep it out of our beds. And that's what's kept me from being a no-till farmer all these years. Nobody has an answer for how to keep perennial Bermuda grass from, you can lose literally 2 feet of garden on the edge to Bermuda grass from it creeping in. And so that's what keeps me from doing perennials. So I do not have any recommendation, but I know there are a bunch of wonderful ones. Hey Lisa, which cool flower will continue to bloom the longest through late spring and early summer? I'm in zone 8A, thanks. So you did tell me you're zone 8, so that means you're in the south like me. And I am 8A also. And that's a really hard question because a lot of variables affect this, but I would say the longest haul cool flower that I grow are definitely snapdragons. And that was one of the driving forces behind me creating that mix called the Dragons, because it's a mix of like 10 to 15 different varieties and shades. Like there's a white one, there's a yellow, there's a pink, and there's a sunset. And it's got all the different groups and it's got different shades of that color, because I can have snaps blooming from, out in the field from late March right up until July. We start having, as the heat comes on, they start to get shorter. They're still producing. So it's a matter of what the quality's like. But I would say the longest haul cool flower for me in my conditions and the way I grow them are snaps. I found some seeds that I had put back 2 years ago. Do seeds have a true expiration date? Crazy horse. That 100% depends on how you stored them. If you want to learn more about the best way to store your seeds, we have a great blog on our website, thegardenersworkshop.com, that Rhonda wrote last year or the year before. It's if you go to the Learning Center on my website, go to the blog, and it's just go to the seed category. It's storing seeds longer. Definitely is all about how you, and then you can germinate test them if you have questions. Lynn, I have Godicia started. When does it bloom for you? I had a real gap in my spring flowers last year, zone 6B, New Jersey. So, I have Godicia started too. Actually, I moved it from the heat to the grow lights this morning. And I'll tell you this, if you join me tomorrow on Facebook Live at 11 a.m. from the farm, I have a lot of really beautiful sprouting new baby seeds, tons of stock and straw flowers. I have Godicia, I have Billy Balls. What else did I start? I can't remember. And so we can check that out. So it's been several years since I've grown Godicia. So I fall planted it this year, and I'm planting it again in very early spring. So I can kind of figure that out. Can we actually get some successions in? But I do know in years past for me, it was a flash crop. It seemed to all come on at one time. And it seemed to me that it was pretty early. So I really am, that's what this time that we're really moving into now. I was asked the other day that, where is the Gardener's Workshop going? And so for those of you that may not be following along, we were production farmers for 23 years, meaning we sold to florists, designers, at farmers markets, supermarkets, We had a bouquet subscription service, and we had an on-farm members-only market. We did that for 23 years. We grew tens of thousands, I mean, literally 250,000 stems every year from our small urban farm here in the middle of the city. And we loved every minute of it. But as you all may or may not be able to tell, that sharing and teaching and leading other farmers towards what we need so much right now, which are more professional, domestic, local farmers. And so when you are a big production farmer, there's only one thing on your mind. That is growing flowers, cutting flowers, and selling flowers. And there isn't really a lot of experimenting available time. You're living and breathing what the bottom line of your business is all the time. So last year was our farewell season to selling flowers. We still have a huge cutting garden. We just are now not obligated to get them cut and harvested to be able to sell to people. It is for 100% learning. It's our learning garden now, so that we can embark on some of these things like what you're asking, Lynn. I mean, I feel like once we find the cool flowers, for instance, that are just great growers for us, the next step is then how do we succession that? How can we have it longer? It is so much easier to get a customer on board, or for making bouquets, to have the same flower for the maximum number of weeks, right? So those flash crops like Godicia was for me years ago, but I'll be honest, I mean, I grew it once or twice and it's like, that doesn't last long enough. We aren't growing that again. It was a beautiful flower, but I couldn't make use of it for high production. That's the kind of stuff that we're going to be doing now, and really trying to figure out this whole succession planting thing along with other stuff. So Rhonda did also just walk up and hand me something, and I would be amiss if I didn't mention it. This is a fertilizer that we love, but we're discontinuing it because we now have the fertilizer, have our in-house, our own custom blend that we're selling. It's on sale, friends. This is the Neptune's Harvest crab and lobster. It grows some amazing plants, but I will tell you that golden retrievers eat it. So beware about that. So that is kind of where we are right now. And so we hope that succession planting will come true for the Godicia and a lot of this other stuff. And so, friends, if you want to keep up with us, sign up for our farm news. It's right on the homepage of our website, thegardenersworkshop.com. Tons of stuff over there, y'all. There's a ton of free content, my podcast, and, you know, I'm doing some great interviews these days. I just had a great talk with Val Shermer, and there's going to be one coming out with her on growing lilies, which you do not want to miss. I just had a great interview with Jonathan Lease talking about growing the flower colors that you grow, and also one on sunflowers. So the next few weeks are going to be packed with a lot of great information, and the way to stay connected to that is through our farm newsletter. All right, friends, it is lunchtime here, and I want to go eat that cookie. Don't forget about my niece's business if you're like a local person. Delicious. All right, friends, see me at 1 o'clock on Clubhouse today over, and we'll have a great conversation. We're doing some troubleshooting on cool flowers. I'm going to talk about the dead cool flowers that are in my garden right now. You want to know what they are? Come on over to Clubhouse. Ciao.